It was 2:37 in the morning when I first heard the tapping. 3 soft taps, not from the door, not from the window, but from inside the bathroom, from behind the mirror. I froze. I wasn't asleep. I hadn't been able to sleep all night. The room felt wrong from the moment I walked in. But that sound, that tap, tap, tap from the mirror, that's when I knew something was horribly, terribly wrong. And I swear to you, something was watching me from the other side. This happened in July of 2021. I was supposed to be on a weekend trip to Vegas with my cousin. She had booked the hotel, made the plans, everything, but her flight got delayed because of some crazy storm in Dallas. So I ended up arriving alone. I thought, no big deal. I'll check in, order some food, relax until she gets here. Just a normal night in a flashy Vegas hotel. Except the moment I walked into the building, I felt it. That weird weight in the air. Like the hotel was breathing, like the walls had lungs. There were people around, sure, but nobody made eye contact, no smiles, no warmth, just this cold, mechanical hospitality. They gave me a room on the 4th floor, room 409. I remember because the hallway was strangely quiet, like someone had muted the whole floor. When I opened the door to my room, I immediately noticed the air. It didn't smell bad, it just smelled, still. Like the room hadn't been disturbed in weeks. No movement, no breath. It was cold, but not in a refreshing way. Cold like a place that had seen too much silence. I remember standing in the doorway for a full minute before stepping in. Something was off. I just didn't know what. The room itself was pretty standard. King-sized bed, faux wood furniture, cheap modern art. But the bathroom, that's what I remember most. The mirror above the sink was huge, like unnecessarily huge. It stretched from wall to wall, and the glass looked new. But when I leaned in to look at myself, something felt off. My reflection was normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was behind it. I don't know what made me do it, but I knocked on the mirror. Not hard, just a little tap. And instead of a solid thump, it sounded hollow, like there was space behind it. Like I wasn't tapping on a wall, I was tapping on a window. I made a short video, just messing around. POV, you find out your hotel mirror is fake, I said, giggling. I uploaded it to TikTok thinking nothing of it. Within an hour, it had hundreds of comments. People were telling me to get out. That sounds hollow. Seriously. You need to test if that's a two-way mirror. Do the fingernail test now. That's when the fear started to settle in. What if I wasn't imagining it? What if there was something or someone behind that mirror? I couldn't sleep that night. The room felt colder than before. I left the bathroom door open, the light on. I just needed to see that mirror. Around 2:30 in the morning, I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up slowly, my chest tightening. It was coming from the mirror. I got out of bed, barely breathing, and stood just outside the bathroom door. The mirror was fogging slightly, but the room wasn't hot. Then, as I leaned in, I saw it. A shadow moved behind the glass, something crawling in the dark. I remembered the old trick. Put your fingertip against the mirror. If there's a gap between your finger and its reflection, it's just a normal mirror. But if there's no gap, it might be a two-way. I tried it, no gap. My heart dropped. I called the front desk. I tried to sound calm. They said it was just a modern design, that the mirror was glued directly to the wall. But I knew that was a lie. I went back downstairs. This time I wasn't calm. I demanded to speak with security. 2 men followed me back up to the room, annoyed but cooperative. I showed them the mirror. One of them tapped it and looked at the other. They exchanged a glance. "We're gonna need to take this down," one of them muttered. They pried the mirror from the wall, and behind it was a hole, a crawl space, big enough for someone to live in. The air that came out of that hole was foul, damp, rotten. Inside were crumpled food wrappers, cigarette butts, empty bottles, and in the far corner, an old sandwich, still half wrapped. Someone had been living in there, watching people, watching me. But the worst part? As one of the guards shined his flashlight deeper, he stopped. His light froze on a pair of pale, bloodshot eyes, staring back at us. They pulled me out of the room, told me it was under investigation. I posted one last video, just a warning to anyone staying there. But when I checked back the next day, it was gone. Deleted. My account locked. The hotel claimed I had never stayed there. My name wasn't in the system. My cousin called and demanded answers. Nothing. It was like I had never checked in at all. A week later, someone tagged me in a Reddit post. Stayed in room 409. Nothing weird. Mirror looks new, just drywall behind it. They attached a photo. The wall was patched, no crawl space, no hole, like it had never been there. Or maybe the man had moved on to another room, another mirror, watching someone else. I haven't stayed in a hotel since. I cover every mirror in my apartment at night. I don't know what that thing was. A squatter, a predator, or something worse. All I know is, if you ever feel like you're being watched in a hotel room, check the mirror, because there might be someone on the other side, and he might be watching you right now. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true horror stories. Stay safe out there, and next time you check into a hotel, don't trust the mirror. It started with fireworks, not fear, not ghosts, not horror, just fireworks. 4th of July is my favorite holiday. Always has been. There's something about it, the smell of barbecue in the air, the lazy hum of summer, and the night sky bursting with color. It's loud and chaotic, but there's comfort in that noise. It's familiar. It reminds me of my childhood, of backyard cookouts and sparklers and sleeping with the window open. But this year, I heard something that changed everything. It happened at 9:42 p.m. I was standing in my backyard filming fireworks on my phone when I heard it. A sound so out of place, so wrong, that I felt every hair on my body stand up. A scream, not from the sky, not from the fireworks, from the woods behind my house. And not just any scream, it was human. Desperate, guttural, like someone was dying. And that was just the beginning. Let me back up a bit. My name's Kyle. I'm 32 years old. I work remote in IT, and I live in a modest little house in a sleepy Pennsylvania town. One of those places where everybody knows everybody, and nothing really happens except football games and fall festivals. My house backs right up to a dense patch of woods. No fences, no gates, just trees. I moved out here for the peace and quiet. After years of city noise and honking and drunk people screaming at 2 a.m., the idea of waking up to birdsong sounded like heaven. And honestly, it was. For the first year, I slept like a baby. Sat on my porch with a cup of coffee every morning, read books, listened to the wind rustling through the trees. But lately, the silence out here feels different. Like something is listening back. So that night, the 4th, I did what I always do. Lit the grill, cracked a beer, turned on some classic rock. Around 9:30, the fireworks started in the neighborhood, so I grabbed my phone and stepped into the backyard to film. And then, I heard it. At first, it blended in. I thought it was a distant firework that just sounded weird, maybe a dog howling, but it kept going and going. It rose higher, the pitch changed, and then it broke into something else. Something human. It wasn't a yell, not some drunk guy shouting. It was a scream, a pained, guttural, soul-twisting scream like someone was being torn apart. It came from the woods, somewhere deep but still close enough that it echoed. I dropped my phone. It clattered against the patio and kept recording as I just stood there frozen. The hairs on my arms stood up. I know the sounds of animals. I've heard coyotes, owls, even bobcats. This was none of those. After a few minutes, I picked up my phone, hands still shaking. The video was only 30 seconds long, mostly fireworks, until the last 10. I hit play, and there it was, even clearer than I remembered, a raw, blood-curdling scream echoing through the speakers, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop, that instinctively tells your brain someone's in danger. I posted the clip on TikTok. I didn't think much of it, just a throwaway post with the caption, "WTF did I just catch on camera?" Within an hour, it started blowing up. I went to bed thinking nothing of it. Maybe a coyote with a sore throat, maybe a drunk neighbor playing a prank. But when I woke up the next morning, everything changed. My phone was flooded with comments, duets, stitches. Dozens of people in my town had also heard it. One guy said he was walking his dog on the other side of the neighborhood and heard it clear as day. Another girl? She said it came from right behind her garage, that she thought someone was being murdered in her backyard. But the creepiest part? It wasn't the first time. People started commenting that they'd heard the same scream in previous years, always on the 4th of July, always from the woods, always just one scream. No one ever found the source. I started digging. Reddit, old forums, local Facebook groups. I found a post from 2015 buried in an old community board. A guy with the username Ridgewalker92 warned people to stay out of the woods behind Walnut Creek on the 4th. He claimed the land was cursed, said it was home to something that mimicked human voices, that it used screams to lure people into the trees. He described exactly what I heard. The same timing, the same sound. One comment stood out. It said, "It doesn't just scream, it learns, it remembers you, and eventually it calls you with your own voice." That night, I barely slept. I kept waking up, checking the back door, peeking through the blinds like a paranoid lunatic. At 2:12 a.m., I heard something again. It was soft at first, almost like whispering. I opened the sliding glass door to the porch and stepped outside, and I heard it again. Only this time, it wasn't a scream. It was a voice, my voice, calling from the woods. It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry. It was gentle, like someone calling to a dog, like a mother trying to coax a child inside. It said, "Kyle," just once, drawn out, soft, but it wasn't coming from me. It was coming from deep in the woods. Now, I don't scare easy. I've camped in Yellowstone, hiked the Rockies, I've seen black bears 10 feet away. But this wasn't wildlife. It was something pretending to be human, pretending to be me. And the worst part, it sounded perfect. Not like a recording, not robotic. It was exact. My voice, my cadence, my breathing. I backed into the house and slammed the door shut, locked it, pulled every curtain closed. Then I turned the volume up on the video, and I prayed I was dreaming. The next day, I did more digging. I called the Historical Society. I asked about the land my house sat on. Turns out it used to be part of an old 19th century logging operation, long gone now. But before that, before settlers came, the area was believed to be a sacred boundary by the Lenape people, a place where the veil was thin, where spirits passed between worlds. They had stories, old stories of a creature they called Kuikuna, the voice that hides in trees. A spirit that didn't just mimic but learned. It would copy the sounds of children, lovers, family members, drawing people in deeper and deeper until they disappeared. The woman on the phone hesitated when she told me this, almost like she didn't want to say it aloud. She said, "It doesn't come every year, only when it's hungry." That evening, I got a call. A guy named Mason said he was one of the TikTok commenters. He told me in a low, shaky voice that he'd heard his own brother's voice calling from the woods 3 years ago on the 4th. His brother had died in a car crash the year before. At first, he thought he was hallucinating. He was grieving, maybe drunk, but it called again, over and over. "Mason, come here, I need help." He almost went into the woods, almost, but something stopped him. He said it was the silence. The world just went quiet, like even the insects were scared to make a sound. He didn't go, but he said others did, and they never came back. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. I went to the edge of the woods that night, just to look. I brought a flashlight, a knife, my phone. I left the back door wide open, just in case, and I stepped onto the path. The air changed instantly, heavier, still, as if the woods were holding their breath. The flashlight cut through the dark branches, underbrush, shadows, and then I heard it again, "Kyle." Only this time, it was closer. And it didn't sound like me anymore. It sounded warped, like something had been practicing, but hadn't quite perfected it. Then it screamed. The exact scream from the fireworks video, only now it was right behind me. I ran, dropped the flashlight, sprinting blind through thorny underbrush, branches slapping my face. I didn't stop until I burst through the trees and onto my lawn. But the screaming didn't stop. It followed me, not just sound, but presence. I swear, something was behind me, almost stepping in sync. As I reached my porch, the scream cut off, like someone had hit a mute button, and then came a whisper, right at my ear. "Kyle," I spun. There was nothing there, just dark trees, and the sound of fireworks in the distance. That was 4 nights ago, and it hasn't stopped. Every night, it gets closer. Sometimes I hear tapping on the windows, other times I hear my own voice laughing from the tree line. I boarded up the back door. I stopped sleeping. I watch the woods every night now. But last night it changed again. I didn't hear my voice. I heard my mother's. She's been dead for 6 years. But I heard her, clear as day. She said, "Come out, baby. I need your help." And I almost opened the door. Almost. I've packed a bag. I don't care about my lease, my job, my stuff. I'm done. The woods are cursed. That's the only explanation. Something lives out there, or watches. And every year, it wakes up. It doesn't kill right away. It learns, it mimics, and then it calls, and eventually, it gets you to answer. If you live near Walnut Creek or anywhere with a deep, dark forest, do yourself a favor. Stay inside on the 4th of July. Don't listen to the voices. And if you do hear something, don't follow it. Don't film it. And whatever you do, don't answer when it calls your name, because by the time it knows your voice, it's already too late. I still can't ride elevators, not even the ones in brand new buildings with perfect lighting and friendly music. Every time the doors slide open, I half expect to see her standing there, waiting. She got in, on the 5th floor. I didn't speak to her. I didn't look at her. I followed every rule. But the thing no one tells you is, she comes anyway. And once you've seen her face, you don't get to go back to the world you came from. I've always been a thrill seeker, or maybe just an idiot with a camera. My YouTube channel started as a joke in college. Urban exploration, haunted places, conspiracy deep dives, clickbait with just enough truth to mess with your head. But somewhere along the way, the dark stuff started pulling better numbers. Abandoned hospitals, asylums, that old bridge in Jersey where people claim they see ghost kids at night. My audience kept daring me to go deeper. So when someone in the comments mentioned the elevator game, I shrugged. Sure, I'll try it. What's the worst that could happen? That was my first mistake. The second was picking that building. It was a tip from a guy I met at an underground ghost walk. He said there was this ancient pre-war tower in Lower Manhattan, mostly abandoned, but technically still zoned as commercial space. He grinned like he was handing me a loaded gun and said, "If the elevator game works anywhere, it'll work there." The next night, I packed my gear, went live, and walked into hell. I'd read the rules a dozen times. 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5. That's the button sequence. After that, if the ritual's working, a woman is supposed to enter the elevator on the 5th floor. They say she's not human. She looks real, but wrong. If she enters, you can't look at her. You can't speak to her. If you do, she'll keep you. Wherever she comes from, she drags you back there. The final step? If you survive her, you press the button for the 1st floor. If the elevator takes you down, congratulations. You're back in our world. But if it goes up, you're not. I knew it was stupid, a glorified internet dare, but something about the silence in that building, the way the lobby lights flickered like they were blinking in Morse code, it made the rules feel real, too real. The elevator doors closed behind me with a deep groan. It was just me and the sound of grinding gears echoing up a narrow concrete shaft. I hit the buttons in sequence. 4, the elevator started climbing, a faint hum underneath. 2, a shudder, like the cables were pulled too tight. 6, a faint creaking above my head. I swear I heard footsteps in the ceiling tiles. 2 again, the lights flickered. My Livestream camera glitched, just static for a moment. 10, the elevator paused before rising again. There was a long, unnatural delay. And then, finally, 5. The moment I pressed it, something changed. The air grew heavy, like the elevator was filled with water instead of air. I could feel pressure building in my ears, like I was rising through the ocean. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my chest would explode. Then the elevator dinged. The doors slid open, and she was already there. She didn't step into view. She was already standing there when the doors opened, perfectly still, as if she'd been waiting for me. A woman. Pale, like she hadn't seen sunlight in decades. Jet black hair draped over her face, soaked and stringy like she'd just crawled out of a well. She wore what looked like a hospital gown, faded, stained at the hem with something dark. Her arms hung stiff by her sides. Her head was slightly tilted, not looking at me, not even flinching. I didn't move. I couldn't. She just stood there in the hallway, not blinking, not breathing. And even though I wasn't looking directly at her face, I could feel her staring into me. Something in my body screamed, "Close the doors, now." I reached out slowly and pressed the closed door button. She didn't move, not even as the doors slid shut again. But right before they met in the middle, she smiled. As soon as the doors shut on her, the elevator dropped, fast. But it wasn't taking me to the first floor. The lights started blinking rapidly. The button panel buzzed like it was shorting out. Then black. My live stream froze. The feed went dead. My phone screen glitched, filled with static, then turned off completely. For a second, I felt like I wasn't in the elevator anymore, just suspended in darkness, like something was holding me in place. I don't know how long I was in there. Minutes, hours, time stopped making sense. When the elevator moved again, I didn't press anything. It just started rising, past the 10th floor, then past 11, 12, and then something impossible. The button panel blinked. 13. That floor doesn't exist, not in this building. But the elevator stopped. The doors opened, and what I saw wasn't a hallway. It was an open space, massive, endless, colorless. Like a warehouse that never ended. And way off in the distance, there were figures moving, not walking, gliding. I didn't get out. Something told me if I stepped into that place, I'd never return. I slammed the one button over and over again, and the elevator started to move. Relief washed over me until I caught something in the reflection. She was inside, behind me, her head low, her hands twitching. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. I just stood there, eyes locked on the panel, praying the elevator would take me back. When the doors opened, I was in the lobby. The lights were off. Dust hung in the air like smoke. I stumbled out, my phone still dead. My legs barely worked. The building was empty. But it wasn't just night. It was a different week. When I finally charged my phone, I saw dozens of missed calls. Comments asking if I was okay. People thought I vanished. I went in on a Thursday night. It was Friday of the next week. I deleted the footage, but even now, I feel her watching me. In mirrors, reflections. The camera I use still turns on by itself sometimes, showing static. Sometimes, in that static, I swear I see her face. I don't sleep much anymore. I can't ride elevators, and sometimes late at night, I hear the ding of an elevator arriving, even when I'm alone. If you ever get curious about the elevator game, let me save you the trouble. Don't press that sequence. Because once you see her, she sees you too. I don't scare easily. I've spent more nights alone in the forest than I can count. I've seen bears up close, woke up with coyotes circling my tent. I've heard noises at night that made my skin crawl. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for this. I found a cabin, in the middle of nowhere, deep in the woods of northern Maine. A place no road leads to, a place not marked on any map. It wasn't a ruin. It wasn't old. It looked like someone was still living in it. The fire was still warm. The food on the table was steaming, but there was no one there. I went back 4 days later with friends to prove it wasn't in my head. But when we got there, the cabin was gone. Not collapsed, not destroyed, gone. And the clearing it sat in, that was gone too, like the forest had never been touched. This whole thing started because I wanted to unplug for a while, get away from the world. I'd been working 60-hour weeks, barely sleeping, barely thinking straight. So I planned a solo trip, 5 days in the North Woods, far north, past cell towers, past hunting camps, no roads, just old logging trails and wilderness. I parked my truck where the dirt track dead-ended and hiked in, compass, topographical maps, and a full pack. On the third day, after hours of weaving through thick brush and quiet valleys, I hit a stretch of forest that felt different. Like the air was thicker, quieter somehow. I couldn't even hear birds anymore. Just the crunch of my boots and the soft creaking of trees swaying above. And then I saw it, just barely between the trees. A sliver of wood, a rooftop, something man-made. It was a cabin, not a shack, not some crumbling old trapper's shelter. This place was intact, maintained. There was a small porch with a wooden swing that creaked gently in the breeze. A red lantern hung beside the door. The windows were clean. The door was shut but not locked. I should have turned around right there. But curiosity, it's a dangerous thing in the woods. I stepped onto the porch and knocked. No answer. I waited. Nothing. So I opened the door. It was warm inside. The kind of warmth that doesn't come from insulation. It came from a fire that had just been stoked. The hearth was glowing. The air smelled like cedar smoke and rosemary. On the table was a full meal, a roast chicken, perfectly browned, 2 plates, 2 glasses of red wine. Someone had been here, not days ago, minutes ago, and yet there was no one. No sound of footsteps, no coat on the hook, just the faint ticking of a clock. And the growing chill in my spine. I started noticing the details, the photos, black and white but not aged, a man in a waistcoat and bowler hat, a woman with a lace bonnet, smiling just a little too much. Their eyes, they looked wrong. On a shelf, I saw a book, a diary. I opened it. Every page said the same thing, over and over, written in shaky handwriting. It wasn't here yesterday. It wasn't here yesterday. It wasn't here yesterday. The walls creaked suddenly, and the fire crackled like someone had just tossed in more wood. That's when I left. I didn't run. Not yet, but I got out. I made it out of the woods by sunset. Didn't look back once. I spent the next 3 days trying to forget. But the images wouldn't leave me. The warmth of that cabin, the food, the photos. So I told my friends. They thought I'd finally cracked from being alone too long. But 2 of them, Mike and Lena, offered to come back with me. We'll settle this, they said. Either you show us something incredible, or we all get a weird camping story out of it. So we drove back out, hiked to the same spot. But when we got there, the trees were untouched. No clearing, no chimney, no sign anything had ever been there. I stood exactly where the cabin should have been. I checked the coordinates twice. I'd written them down. It was supposed to be right there. Lena was quiet, pale. She turned slowly, looking at the trees. And then she whispered, "Do you hear that?" We all stopped breathing, and then it came, a knock, a single hollow knock, from somewhere deeper in the woods. Not woodpecker, not echo. It sounded deliberate. We ran. I don't even remember who screamed first. Branches clawed at our arms. Roots nearly twisted our ankles, but we didn't stop, because behind us, we could hear it. Footsteps, but not human, not quite. Heavy, off rhythm, like someone dragging something behind them. Lena said she saw something in the trees, a figure, watching, waiting. When we finally reached the trailhead, I collapsed, and none of us said a word. I tried to report it, went to a ranger station, told them everything, gave them the coordinates, described the cabin, the meal, the portraits. The ranger just blinked at me. "There's nothing out there," he said. "No records, no trails, no buildings, no clearings. Nothing's ever been logged in that sector." He showed me old maps. No anomalies, no structures. He even said, and I quote, "If you saw a cabin, son, then you weren't in our woods." Last night I had a dream. I was back there. The cabin was waiting for me. The fire was lit. The meal was hot. But this time the table had 5 plates, 5 chairs. One had my name carved into the wood. And standing in the corner, half in shadow, was someone watching me. Not moving, not breathing, just smiling. I haven't gone back. I won't, but some nights I hear something, a soft knock or the distant creak of a porch swing in the wind, and sometimes, just sometimes, I see a red glow through the trees near my backyard, a lantern swaying gently, waiting for someone to come home. You saw it too, right? That white shape just behind the gravestone, right when I turned my back. You saw it move, fast, like it didn't want to be caught, but not fast enough. Not before the whole chat lit up. That's when things started to go wrong. That's when I realized this wasn't just a live stream anymore. This was something else, something real. And it followed me home. I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would anyone live stream alone in a cemetery at midnight? But for me, that was just Tuesday night. I run a small channel, paranormal investigations, urban legends, cursed spots across the South. I've done abandoned asylums, forgotten plantations, even that infamous tunnel in Tennessee. But the place I went that night, it wasn't on any map. A viewer DM'd me the location, said it was unmarked but not forgotten. That alone gave me chills. I looked it up. Nothing, just a dot of land near Baxley, Georgia. No name, no history, just a fence, some graves, and pine trees taller than God. Honestly, it looked perfect for views. I arrived just after 11:30 p.m. Took my time setting up, got my gimbal, flashlight, backup battery, all that. The cemetery gate wasn't locked. It was rusted halfway open, like no one had touched it in years. As I walked in, I immediately felt it. That pressure, like the air itself, was heavier. The stillness was too clean, too intentional. No crickets, no breeze, not even the usual hum of insects. Just silence. By 12:03 a.m., I was live. "Hey everyone," I said, panning the flashlight around. "Welcome to Georgia's most forgotten cemetery, or as I like to call it, a paranormal Airbnb." Chat blew up, people laughing, making ghost jokes. Someone dared me to find the oldest grave. Another said they saw movement already. Typical hype. But deep down, I felt different, like I'd stepped into a place that didn't want me there. About 15 minutes in, I found a gravestone that gave me pause. Elspeth Rains, born 1806, died 1874. Wife, mother, midwife. That's all it said. The stone was cracked, almost split down the middle, but someone had tied a single black ribbon around the base. I commented on it in the stream, said something like, "Creepy how someone left that here." I turned to move on, and the chat exploded. The chat was going insane. "What was that? Rewind. Something just ran behind her." I swear to God I saw it. White figure, far left corner. I stopped, scrolled back, paused the frame, and there it was, just behind a headstone, blurry but unmistakably human-shaped. Pale, slender, leaning, almost peeking. I stood there staring at the frame for a long time. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it through my headphones. I tried to laugh it off. "Probably fog," I said. Or a deer, but I knew that wasn't fog. That thing was watching me. After that, I wasn't joking anymore. I kept the flashlight closer to my chest. I started whispering. The chat noticed. The air felt charged, like something was waiting. Then I heard it. A clicking noise, sharp, fast, like someone tapping their fingernails on granite. It echoed, even though the trees should have muffled it. I swung the light, nothing. I called out, "Hello?" Nothing. Then the clicking stopped, and the breathing began. I tried to speak again, but the words caught in my throat. I could hear it breathing, but it wasn't mine. That's when something hit the phone. The stream shook violently. My phone spun. I dropped it. The light went sideways, briefly illuminating something white running between the trees. I screamed. The only sound on the stream after that was my breathing. Panicked, shaky. Then the feed cut. When I got home, I didn't even remember the drive. I just remember shaking. My hands wouldn't stop. I kept replaying that moment over and over, me turning, the white blur, the crash, and the breathing. I hadn't said a word to chat, I just ran. My phone was scratched but still working. The stream had ended abruptly at 12:43 a.m. No outro, no goodbye, just silence, then black. But people had seen something. They screen recorded it, sent me clips. One frame in particular kept coming up, the pale thing, whatever it was, standing right behind me. No blur, no movement, just there, looking directly at the camera. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in my room with the lights on, door locked, scrolling through DMs. Hundreds of messages. Most were fans worried or curious, but some were different. One just said, "You weren't supposed to see her." Another said, "Check your mirror. She doesn't like being ignored." I didn't want to check, but of course I did. I turned the camera toward my bathroom mirror, and for a second, I swear I saw something move behind me. But when I turned around, there was nothing. Just my empty hallway, cold and dark. At 3:17 a.m., I heard the first sound, a soft tap, like someone lightly knocking on my window. I live on the second floor. I stayed frozen in bed, barely breathing. Then I heard it again, a second knock. Then something scraped down the glass. I worked up the nerve to peek through the blinds. Nothing. But as I turned away, the knock came from my closet door. I didn't go live the next night. Or the next. On the third day, I posted a video, just black screen and text. I think it followed me home. That was all I could say. The views exploded. Theories poured in. People said it was a hoax, a stunt, but it wasn't. And I know that because last night, during a power outage, I lit a candle. Sat in total silence. And I heard my phone buzz once. It was a message. No number, no sender. Just 4 words. "She's behind you again." Things started disappearing after that. My keys, my shoes, then weirder stuff. Photos of my family, gone. Candles I never lit burned down to nubs. The mirror in my bathroom cracked from the inside. Every night, 3:17 a.m. scratching, tapping, always from a different spot. And sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails. I don't know how it gets there. I haven't left the house in days. I tried to research the name, Elspeth Raines, midwife, died in 1874. The only record I found was an old newspaper snippet. Said she was accused of bad birthing practices. They blamed her for stillbirths. Said she used old magic, roots, charms, whispers. One quote chilled me. She delivered them into silence. May her voice never be heard again. Silence. That's all I've been hearing lately, except at 3:17. I'm telling you this because I don't know how much longer I can. Last night I woke up outside, just standing in the woods behind my apartment. No shoes, no coat, and right there in the dirt at my feet was a black ribbon, just like the one tied around Elsbeth's grave. So now I'm warning you, if you watched my stream, if you saw her, she might be watching you now. Don't live stream, don't call her name, and whatever you do, don't go back to that cemetery. This isn't a ghost story anymore. It's not content. I turned off my stream, but it didn't end, and if you saw her too, it's already too late. My name's Eric. I used to work the night shift at a gas station just outside a tiny town in Indiana, not a place you'd think something world-breaking would happen. But in July of 2023, it did. It started as an ordinary shift, and it ended with me questioning whether the world I live in is even real. Because what I saw that night, on the cameras, wasn't just strange, it wasn't just unsettling, it was impossible. And the worst part, no one has ever been able to explain it. It was a Thursday night, July 13th. I remember because it was the day after my birthday, and I was dreading working the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. No customers, no conversation, just me and the humming of drink coolers behind me. There's something weird about gas stations at night. During the day, they're just pit stops, people coming and going. But after midnight, they feel like traps. Like you've stepped outside of time. The clocks still tick, but something about the world just doesn't feel alive anymore. Around 2:17 a.m., the automatic door chimed. I looked up lazily from my phone. A guy walked in, tall, maybe 6'3", wearing a black hoodie with the hood up, jeans, work boots. Couldn't see his face well, just a beard sticking out from the shadows. He didn't say anything, just looked at me, gave a small nod, and walked toward the back of the store. I didn't think anything of it. In fact, if I hadn't looked at the monitors 10 seconds later, I probably wouldn't even remember him. So there I was, scrolling Instagram behind the counter, when my eyes drifted up to the security monitors. And my heart skipped a beat. The man, the one who had just walked in, he was no longer walking down the aisle. He was at the very back of the store, by the coolers, standing still. But here's the thing. There was no footage of him walking there. I stared at the monitor, mouth slightly open. He had just entered the front door moments ago. There were no cuts in the footage, no static, no time skip. The timestamp ticked forward smoothly. And yet he went from being near the front to instantly being all the way in the back, as if he had just materialized there, like someone dragged and dropped him into the frame. At first I thought maybe I blinked or looked away too long, but I hadn't. I'd seen him just seconds ago at the entrance. I rewound the footage, I watched it again and again and again. Every time, walks in, timestamp runs normally, then bam. He's at the back, no walking, no transition, just cut and paste. I could feel my hands start to sweat. I told myself maybe the camera had glitched. Maybe it jumped ahead a few seconds without showing it. Happens all the time with cheap systems, right? So I dragged the footage back. Minute before he entered, normal. Door chime, he walks in. Timestamp 2712. Frame by frame I advanced it, watched him enter the first aisle. Then, nothing. The next frame he's just at the back of the store. 10 full seconds passed, and in that time the cameras showed an empty aisle, like he had vanished and reappeared. I know what a glitch looks like. This wasn't it. This wasn't digital. This was wrong on a deeper level. Wrong like someone breaking into a video game's code and spawning inside a locked room. I looked up from the monitor to the actual store. He was still back there, facing the drink coolers, not moving, not reaching for anything, just standing like he was waiting. I called out to him, "You okay, man?" No response. I took a few cautious steps around the counter. I didn't know why I felt afraid, but I did. Something about him, it wasn't just his sudden appearance, it was his presence. When I turned the corner into the back aisle, he was gone, just gone. No door chime, no exit. The back door was locked from the inside. He didn't pass me. There was no place to hide. It was like he vanished into thin air. I stood there, staring at the empty aisle, heart thudding in my chest. Was he hiding? Did he crouch down or slip behind a shelf? I checked. Every corner, every cooler door. Nothing. Then the chime went off again. I turned, and my stomach dropped. It was him. Same hoodie, same boots, same gait. He walked in like it was the first time. Like none of that had just happened. He gave me the same exact nod. But here's the thing. This wasn't déjà vu. I remembered the first time. I had the footage. This was the same man walking in again a second time. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, mouth dry. He passed me again. Same path, same pace, heading toward the back. But this time, I didn't check the cameras. I followed him. I rounded the corner of the back aisle, and once again he was gone. Not even a second had passed. I swear on my life, I was only a few feet behind him. I spun in circles, checked the emergency exit, locked tight, checked the walk-in freezer. Nothing. He had vanished again. And that was when I realized the store was too quiet. No hum of the coolers, no flickering from the old fluorescent lights, just silence. A silence so thick it felt like the store was holding its breath. I backed away slowly, every inch of me screaming that I needed to leave, but I was afraid to even turn around. What if the next time I turned, there were two of him? I rushed back to the counter and slammed the rewind button on the monitors. I wanted to prove to myself I wasn't losing it. I rewound the last 10 minutes, and there it was. 2 entries. 212, he enters the first time. He enters again. Identical motion, identical nod. I even froze both frames side by side. And that's when I noticed something that nearly made me puke. The background behind him wasn't the same. Same man, same position. But in the second clip, the outside world looked different. The trees in the distance were gone. There was nothing outside the gas station windows. Just darkness. Pure, ink-black void. I stood there staring, and something shifted in my gut. Like the floor beneath reality had cracked just a little. Around 3:15 a.m., an old man walked in, gray jacket, trucker hat, holding a gas can. Said his truck died out by the interstate. He was the first normal thing all night. We chatted for a bit. I poured him a cup of coffee. He said, "This place feel weird to you tonight?" I froze. "Yeah, it does actually." He just nodded real slow like he already knew. I rang him up. He thanked me, walked out. The bell chimed behind him. But when I looked at the monitor, nothing. No footage of him ever entering. No record of a transaction. Even the register didn't log the sale. It was like he'd never been there at all. Around 4 a.m. I started to see something else in the camera feed. Me, but not like a reflection. This version of me was on camera, moving differently than I was in real life. On the monitor, I was scratching my neck. In real life, my hands were folded on the counter. The lag was only a second or two at first, then 5, then 10. Soon the me on the monitor wasn't matching me at all. He turned, looked right at the camera. Then he smiled. I didn't. I never smiled. I stared at the screen, frozen. The version of me inside the monitor grinned wider, then walked out of frame. I didn't move. But a second later, I heard the cooler door behind me open. I turned. Nothing. But the door was open, and the air was colder than it should have been. I couldn't take it anymore. I bolted for the front door, but when I stepped outside, there was nothing. No road, no gas pumps, just blackness stretching in every direction like the building was floating in a void. It wasn't just the store glitching, it was the whole damn world. I stepped back inside. The moment the door slid shut behind me, bing, the door chime rang, and he walked in. The man in the hoodie, same nod, same boots, but this time, I didn't move. I just watched him head to the back and vanish. Again, I'm still here. I don't think I ever left. The door keeps chiming, the man keeps walking in. Time resets, but I remember everything. Each night blends into the next. Same nod, same vanishing act, same black void outside. Sometimes I wonder if I died that night, or maybe I was never real to begin with. Maybe I'm just part of the loop, and the camera is still watching me, right now.